He's back on. Brittany and Jerry, can you hear us?
Yep, I can hear you.
Great. It looks like Brittany's having some technical difficulties.
This is my first time using this Teams. Seems to work fairly well.
Yeah. It's been, especially, I guess, last spring and summer, it was interesting to learn all of the different platforms everyone was using.
I'm pretty good with WebEx and I'm pretty good with Zoom, but this is the first time I've been on this one.
Yeah. Well, glad you were able to get on. Hey, Brandon. All right. Well, I think Brittany's probably going to try to reach.
Sorry about that. I was saying hi. I was just on mute.
No worries.
How's it going, Sam? Hi, Shelby.
Chugging along.
Chugging along. All right, here we go.
Awesome. We've got Jerry and Jason on as well. So I think just to kind of set our goals for today, we don't have a strict agenda like we did last time. I know that Jerry and Brittany have some additional repairs that they wanted to discuss with us. And then I think, we really just need to have some additional conversation on the overall funding of the community and getting kind of a direction to move forward, whether we want to do a fee study or how that looks like. So Jerry and Brittany, if you're on, do we want to start with some of the repairs discussion, maybe an update on the pool repairs?
Yeah, we can give you an update on that. So the pool repairs we spoke of last time, which is the tile work and the cracking and stuff like that, we're moving forward with. The beginning of the week, we turned the pump on to start circulating the water and the pump went out. The motor blew up. So we are trying using a couple of different companies to source a new motor or parts for the motor so we can rebuild it. The new motor would be probably around the neighborhood of $4,000 to $5,000. So hopefully we can get the parts and rebuild it at a fraction of that. We ordered those earlier this week. They sent us the wrong parts, so we had to send it back to them. So we should have more information the next day or by tomorrow on that. So that was unexpected, but they do have a workaround for circulating the water. So they are doing that so that the other repairs that we spoke of earlier can get done hopefully this week or by Monday. And then the other item was there was a mainline break in our irrigation system right at Summit and Longs Peak. And it looks like it was a fiber bore, but we do not have any locates. So we're still trying to dig up where a fiber company would have called in locates to see who would be responsible for those repairs.
Are the repairs complete?
The repairs on the irrigation system are complete. The repairs on the pool are not.
Where are we on the pool?
Trying to find parts to rebuild the motor.
What about the tile work and the leak and all of that?
All of that's underway. That should be completed by the end of the week, first part of next week.
Okay.
So it sounds like, Jerry, if we can get the pump issue worked out, it sounds like we're still on track for opening.
Highly doubtful at this point, given the discussions with the fabricators.
Okay.
What timeline are we looking at with the fabricators? And I know it's pending if we get the right parts, but what date line are we looking at currently?
The information that we've got so far is 3 weeks out. We're trying to see if we can expedite that or if there's some other kind of workaround that would reduce that.
Yep. So best case scenario, we're looking at the week of June 14th. What is our worst case scenario kind of looking at?
Worst case scenario is we can't get the parts and we have to wait on a new motor.
Okay.
And that would be an additional 2 weeks out from the information that we have right now.
Okay.
Brittany, do you think it's time to send out something to the residents?
We'll get something out tomorrow, end of day, once we have more information and have more of a concrete time frame.
Okay.
Okay.
Because there's a lot of people talking about hitting the pool Memorial Day weekend.
Yep, and we know.
Yep.
We did not expect a pump motor to blow up.
But I mean, that's the whole reason we tried to throw in those contingencies for things like this funness that we knew would come down the pipe. All right, so and I just want to confirm. So it looks like we did the regrouting of the towels and re-epoxied that. So 3,600 on that piece, the entryway, and then the crack towel. Do we have any plans to combat the concrete issues that we have at the pool?
We have proposals on what we would need to do the concrete work. It's just the funding isn't there.
Okay. Yep. All right, and we know the longer those sit, the more and more issues it runs, and then with the exposed rebar, it leaves the community open just in case someone does trip and gets hurt. So we do have that legal obligation we need to be aware of there on that side as well. I feel like I just want to make sure we're all understanding of that piece. I know I walked around the other day and saw the rebar from both the lifeguard station and then another spot as well.
Yep.
All right, so we got that piece kind of talked about. So the mainline break that happened down on Long's Peak and that side. So we're confident that that can be covered by whoever did the locator side of it. Like, nothing should be coming out of the Highlands budget for that.
So if they called in locates, we should have record of it. And the company that did the work. If they didn't call in locates, it's impossible.
Great. Okay. Yeah, and then so for that, if they were not able to find the locates, it was our water line that broke. That column right there and the damage to that homeowner. Would the district be responsible for that piece as well?
Yes.
Do we have any estimates of what we're looking at on that piece of it?
We don't yet. We're supposed to get those by today or tomorrow.
Okay. Just keeps.
Does insurance cover any of that, Jerry?
I can check on that. I think it depends on what the amount is and what our deductible is and things like that.
Our deductible is $1,000, so we're just waiting to find out what the cost of fixing everything is.
Okay. Thanks, Brittany.
And we filed the insurance claim and it's all, they've accepted.
We haven't filed yet, no.
Oh, okay. So we don't know for sure that it's going to be covered.
We don't.
All right, and then so that takes us through pool and the new incident. And do we still want to go over any of the leftover incidences from last time we met?
Which ones were you thinking of specifically?
Oh, like the winterization for the pool and those pieces. Like, did we get that covered for opening the bathroom and the water fountain? Those pieces. It's $2,900 per year, and we only approved $2,500 for the whole year.
So that's activation, and Julio can do that. So we don't need a plumber to come out and do the activation. It's just the winterization that we have to have a plumber come out and do.
Okay.
Yeah, because that's all the fountains and the sinks and all of that stuff.
Okay. And then, so do we not need to worry about that for this upcoming? Will that $2,500 cover the deactivation of it this year, or
no,
the 29?
it won't.
Okay.
Oh.
So we need to include that, or no, that piece is there. The irrigation repair, the mainline break on item 7 from last time, the Highlands mainline break, ELCI. Was that, and that's additional cost onto this new mainline break, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Do we have any ability to have better protection around these lines by chance? Or anything we should be looking at too? Because it seems like that seems to be a costly line item every year, dealing with people hitting our water lines. Or is there any protection mechanisms out there available that we should be looking at?
The only thing, that we do is, we go through the locate system. People are supposed to call in for locates if they're going to be doing any work in the area so that we can flag those off. And our guys are super responsive. I mean, they get out there same day when we call in locates. Outside of that, I don't know what other protections, you can do to a mainline water line.
Yeah, I'm ignorant of it, so I just wanted to ask just in case. The detention pond, did we get that cleared away? Are we okay on that piece? What the town's enforcing us to do for the screen?
We do have Brittany, what was our price on that? I think 2,500.
I think that is correct. Let me just pull up the right document really quick.
And then do we have a funding source for that 2,500 for that?
We do not.
But
that would typically fall in other repairs and maintenance, and the funding for that is zero.
Okay.
It's 2,500.
That is 2,500. I guess instead of me just going through all of these, I should probably ask, do we have a list of necessary items and costs that we should be looking at, that we should be talking about today, and where we should pull those funding sources from, or where we should look at funding sources for?
Yeah, I mean, we can send you the list.
Okay. Yeah, I want to make sure we don't forget things as we're going on. I know my memory is really bad. I know that we're already over budget. We already have 90,000 that's unidentified in the budget, and if we're having more items come up on top of that additional 90,000 that's not identified, it'd be nice to just have like an ongoing,
like a running total.
Yep, exactly.
Okay.
You read my mind, Jerry. I was just thinking now of a Google Doc that could be online and easily updatable and always up to date. If you guys want, I can actually probably set that up and send out a link so everyone has instant access to it, and then it'd be something that we can reference through the subcommittee. Is anyone opposed to that?
Jason, it might be easier for me to create it on my end since I have all the numbers and the budget and everything, and then I can share Google Doc with everybody.
Perfect. Thank you, Brittany.
Yep, no problem.
Because I think I know my biggest issue when we're talking these numbers is without me seeing where we're at, what's still pending, and where things are at. It's kind of hard for me to envision what's needed. So I will go ahead and shop then.
Okay. Any other discussion on kind of outstanding repairs? And if not, maybe we can transition to the kind of bigger picture item of, funding moving forward and things we need to look at there and kind of how it ties into this upcoming budget season. So as a really quick refresher, CLA, we've done a little bit of work in the past, kind of in conjunction with some of the bond issuances that have occurred to look at, what's kind of our funding gap more or less right now, and what might be needed. So that's a little bit outdated. I think that was probably 3 or 4 years ago since we last updated it. We would be happy to update that if we want to look at, what fees might be necessary to get us to the point where the district is kind of self-sufficient. One other idea, that Brandon kind of threw out is, do we want to do kind of a formal fee study, which would include, kind of what that fee would look like, as well as a comparison to similar communities. So again, another reminder, a fee, in order to implement a fee, I believe we would need town approval. In order to get a mill levy increase, we would also need town approval, and I believe there would be an election required as well. So just kind of for additional context and background in terms of what the district can do at this time. So thoughts on any of that, ideas on kind of direction forward to see what the district would need to get to a self-sufficient stamp.
So this is Jason.
Well, I think.
Go ahead, Sam.
Go ahead, Jason.
Okay.
Oh, okay. I mean, my initial thoughts are there are always going to be things like pumps blowing up and water lines breaking, and we have no money for that. And that's just unrealistic budgeting. And I would like to feel like when we finish the budget process this time, we have a realistic budget. What I don't want to see, or I'm loath to see personally, is like an a la carte menu of different fees for different things, and nickel and it looks like you're nickel and diming the residents. Where if every household paid $100 towards recreation and upkeep or whatever you want to call it, I think that's much more palatable than $20 if you do that or $60 if you use that. That's just my initial, seat of the pants gut reaction to what you're talking about. What that structure looks like, I do think a study would be required to come up with a realistic figure. I think we have enough history now of past performance to see where we are, and going forward, I think it makes sense. I think, if you're talking about 50, 75, $100 a home, to get the pool open on time so we don't have to go through this every year or something else, hey, here's my checkbook, I'll write the check.
Yeah, and Sam, I think that's exactly kind of what I was envisioning as well, at least in building out what that would look like, is a flat kind of monthly fee to each of the residents for, kind of the amenities, specifically in the operations and maintenance there. So Jason, I think you were about to say something. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Nope, you're good, Shelby. So I guess my piece of it is we already engaged the consultant to come in and start that fee study, correct? To our site survey? I forget.
No, that's for the reserve study. That's separate.
Okay.
Yep.
But that's supposed to give us our overarching cost of ownership, correct, each year? Or how's the site survey?
What that will give you is it will give us an understanding of what the district's assets are and the time frame for useful life, so we can project out into the future what replacement costs are going to be on all our assets.
And one of those had to be completed when the districts were formed, correct? What the assets were going to be and the cost of ownership of those at district forming?
I don't believe that's a requirement.
Okay. Can we look into see if one of those was complete? Because I think kind of one of the issues that I have as a resident coming into this is how did we get into a position that the budget that we currently have and that's being passed over and over, how is that not covering where we're at? How have we built out to where the O&M levy that we currently have that was maxed for the town isn't covering the cost of ownership for what we're providing?
Because we put together an unrealistic budget and approved it. That's my take on it, Jason.
Well, I agree with that piece, Sam. So, but on that side, I know when I was sold my house, I was told, oh, everything goes through your taxes. There's no additional fee. I was told that out multiple times. It's what's being told right now to new residents that are being sold houses currently today. So the fact that we're discussing a fee when houses are currently being sold, being told that there is no fee, I really would want to understand where there was disparity between what was proposed and how these districts were formed and what's been taken over, and why those two do not meet in the middle. And then once we can kind of delve into that and explain that out of, hey, this is where that deviation happened from when the districts formed, that the O&M mill levy would cover the cost of the districts, to, oh, this is what happened and why that's not possible. And now we have to come back and ask for these fees.
Yeah,
I mean, what are you suggesting? You want to understand, I guess, how the original mill levy was derived.
I want to know how the original mill levy was
to the number of expenses that were projected at the time. I don't have that information, and I'm not sure forensics, if you guys from CLA have it, or there's information in the service plan documentation. I'm looking at, my suggestion was to look forward in terms of what the services are being provided and what does it need to actually fund it.
Mm-hmm. Definitely on that piece. I think that having that's definitely going to be important, Brandon, but I think if we are proposing fees or going over fees, we shouldn't just say, hey, here's a new fee. I think we need to explain why there's a fee.
We're proposing what the options are.
Okay.
We're proposing what we understand, what the revenues and expenses are, or if it's reasonable or not. And then what are the options? We're not proposing anything right now. I don't think we have anything on the table. I mean, I think we're considering all of the options,
Okay.
fee versus mill levy versus a la carte versus, straight fee. I mean, we just want to put everything on the table.
Yep.
And that's, I think the third party analysis can help us with that.
Okay. Yeah, definitely on that piece. Like I said, I think understanding where we've had that deviation, like I said, for me as a resident, I want to know why is our O&M levy not funding where we're currently at? Like, why are we in that point? Especially even today, if houses are still being sold today saying that, hey, there is no additional fee outside of O&M for that mill levy. I think that would be very vital to kind of understand and be able to elaborate on.
Yeah, and Jason, I don't know if any of us have, the complete history here. Unfortunately, we could certainly, as Brandon said, look at the service plan and see what was initially done there. I recall from comments Jennifer Ivy had made in the past that, particularly with the town of Erie, they generally have, those caps on that mill levy. So that was kind of what the district was constrained to. So again, we can certainly look some of that up. I think we all understand, your concerns with what has been communicated to residents in the past and potential new homeowners here. I think, where we're at today, though, is really taking a good look at level of service that the community wants, what those potential solutions are for kind of the shortfall in funding. As well as building in this reserve study that's been done so that, we can be sure to set up the community for success in the long run as well.
Yep. So did we ever actually get a list of the services provided by the community by chance that we can use to start evaluating that piece of it?
Yeah, I believe I sent that out prior to the last meeting.
All right, let me go take a quick look. If anyone has it and can share it on the screen, I'd be much appreciative while I try and dig for it.
Yep, I have it here. I can share it in just 1 second. Let me open it.
Perfect. Thank you.
Okay. Let's see, let me scroll up. Yep, so here's what Jerry and Brittany put together, aligning everything with the 2021 approved budget, and really talking about, what does that budget currently cover and what that level of service is. So
it went away, Shelby.
It did? Okay, my bad. All right.
There we go.
Okay. All right, so let's go through these a bit and let's see what, if anything could be trimmed on that piece of it. So I guess one of the important things we need to keep in mind too is we are beholden to the county or to the town as far as, well, like different pieces and parts. So, hey, like the sidewalk that we had to do out on Highlands, or not, I can't remember the name of the street, but basically those pieces, keeping the weekly mowing, things on those lines. So Jerry helped keep me responsible for what can be skipped because town doesn't care versus what we can't skip because the town requires us to look nice and pretty. Okay. So the weekly mowing, for that piece of it, is that a town requirement for the mowing, or could we look at maybe going to a bi-weekly process for that?
You can look going to bi-weekly. With the type of turf that is there, being Kentucky bluegrass, there's going to be some challenges with doing it bi-weekly. It's not going to look that great.
Unfortunately, looks versus money wins, I feel, unless anyone has any other. I mean, if that's where we're trying to end up being as pitching our pennies, I don't feel like we can hold our nose to what we look like as a community.
Yeah, and Jason, maybe let me ask a question here. I think one thing we could do through a fee study is even looking at what's our current level of service, and, maybe what's that desired level of service and kind of comparing what the fee would be. to me, I mean, that seems like it would be useful because then we know what's our starting point in terms of, what would we need fee-wise either way.
Yep.
And then kind of work down from there. That's just my opinion though, and certainly this is up to you all.
And Shelby, I think what you're getting at is, what is the process that we need to take to get to, decisions, right? And, the decisions of level of service versus, revenue versus expenses. And I think before we kind of start trying to, pick and choose of what level of service we want here, I think we need a little more information. And that's why I think, an analysis would be helpful in that regard and a process. And so I think what we're looking to propose here is to engage a firm to help us with that.
Okay. So I guess my question is, if we're already short on the budget for this current year, we're already behind on the 90,000 that we don't have identified as revenue source. We've already blown our budget for maintenance this year and are over that piece. Where do we identify the budget to cover this fee service study?
Well, I think the first step would be to get some proposals so we understand, what a fee analysis would take, time and dollars. And so maybe we can just start there before we actually talk about that. I'm not sure if it's going to cost $2,000 or $5,000 or 10, whatever that number is, and then we can have that conversation.
Okay. Yeah, like I said, for me, I know we already don't have enough funds to cover our day-to-day operation as where we sit right now to take care of the community to the level that it's expecting. So that's the only reason I kind of bring that up. I want to make sure that, hey, if we do this and we do need to move forward to fee study, whether it's 2 or whether it's 5,000, we still need to know where do we plan to cut to be able to cover that.
Jason, and we talked about this last year, getting a fee analysis, getting a reserve study, and we talked about a process, and this is where we're at. So I suggest that we consider that. Definitely. And engage a couple different proposals.
Actually, that is a good the reserve study. How much did we budget for that last year?
I believe we budgeted 5,000.
Yeah.
And then
5,000.
And then how much did the firm cost us?
I think it's 4,800.
Ah, damn! It's only $200. By humbug. I was hoping maybe there would have been a little bit of wiggle room in that piece of it, because I remember that was one of our budget items. Okay. Fun times.
I think if we are upfront and honest with the residents about where we are and the difficulties that we face, they will. Most of them will understand. Maybe I'm naive, but I think we need to have the data points before we can lay out something to the residents and say, look, here's where we are, here's where we need to be, and here's how we think the best way to get there is. And I think it's got to be a multi-step process. We can't just go running with our hair on fire, screaming, the world's about to end. But if we do it systematically and thoughtfully, I think we can bring the residents along with us. Like I said, maybe I'm naive, but I think that's where we need to go. And I think the first step is what Brandon is suggesting, and that's getting those data points.
So, and just a little background. So, there's groups that are out. The CLA does, can probably provide a proposal for that. We may choose to entertain that proposal. We may want to have a completely separate third-party firm other than our consultants. So, I think we should ask CLA to provide a proposal, and we should also ask a few other firms that we've worked with in the past in other districts and that are currently working on the community for the carriage house fee study as well, to propose on doing a kind of a general analysis for the community. So, and the group that's doing the carriage house study is TST Infrastructure. And so I think they're wrapping up their analysis specifically for the carriage house collection that Oakwood is doing. And so they may be a good resource, and I think that I understand they've done a good job. I haven't worked with them directly recently here, but I understand they've done a good job. So we may want to consider them among others. And so I've asked Shelby to kind of consider what other firms may be a good resource to talk to, and Jerry as well, if you've got other groups that may fit the bill. I think let's put it out there and maybe get three proposals, 3, 4, whatever that number is.
Yep. And then I think one of the things too we should probably call out in the fee study is, like Shelby was mentioning earlier, and I think what everyone else has kind of brought up is, hey, what do we need to be at for zero fee, based only to maintain our current O&M? What and what level of services would that curtail currently? What level of services would a fee of X equal, and then a high tier fee as well? So that way it's kind of laid out of, hey, if we want to go no fee, this is what would be loss, and still maintain the community within its recs, versus this is what would be the recommended fee to maintain it, and kind of go from that piece.
So it might be helpful to have like a kind of a one-page kind of scope definition of what we're looking for. Just like you mentioned, Jason. Here are the things that we're actually trying to achieve out of this analysis, and maybe put some language to that. I'd like to understand, I guess, how do other comparable communities look? What are their revenues and expenses looking like that have a similar kind of setup and amenities and so forth? And I tried to look at that last year when we were having a discussion and looked at Colliers, and but it'd be good to have another firm look at that specifically, or other communities such as Colliers. So I think maybe that could be a next step, is to kind of provide like a one-page kind of scope of what we're trying to achieve out of a study, what the outcomes are. And Sam and Jason, provide your input there, like you just mentioned, and let's get some numbers back.
Okay, sounds good. Who's going to be the one in charge of creating the scope? Is it going to be you, Shelby, or is it going to be Jerry and Brittany?
Well, that's a good question.
If we're asking CLA to propose, I'm not sure. Might be good to have jury, I guess, take a shot at it.
Okay, yeah, we can do that.
Okay, so yeah, what we can do, Jerry, Brittany, if you guys want to start it out, and then shoot it to us to kind of review, add content, and then I don't think we can wait, or we should have to wait for the next meeting in 4 weeks for this, but if you want to do it by email, we can bounce email back and forth on that, and then get it out, and that way we get the proposal and kind of review it through email and have something concrete to work with at our next meeting.
Yeah, I think we can put it together and we'll circulate it out next week, and then get input and finalize it.
Perfect. So it looks like deliverables from this meeting are going to be the Google Doc that shows what we're currently over budget on and don't have the expenses to cover, and then the scope for getting a fee study going. Where are we at with the survey, the original survey for this year?
The reserve study?
Yep.
They did the kickoff meeting. Brittany, when did you do that?
That was at our last meeting, I believe, 4 weeks ago.
So we're 4 weeks out, because I think it's an 8-week turnaround time on that study.
Okay. And did we get a board meeting scheduled yet so that can be gone over with the board and have the members be able to ask questions to that consultant?
I don't believe the district would want to incur the expense of a board meeting to go over a reserve study. It's really well done as far as disseminating the information. And, once they get the study done, everybody has access to it online. So you can pour through it in as much detail or as little detail as you want. And then, we can put a process in place where, if there's questions, let's compile all of them, get all of our answers, and just communicate that out, instead of, putting together a formal board meeting with all the consultants and legal team and accounting and everything else.
Okay.
Happy to do so, but it'll save the district money, and that's kind of what this group is, I think, looking into.
Not a problem. So we're looking 4 weeks for that piece. How long after we get the results do we have to get questions to the consultant?
I think we said we have it for 4 weeks, but I can definitely check with Garrett and get that exact timeline.
Perfect.
But again, that could be like a Google Doc that I do, right? So everybody can look at it, and then they can fill out the Google Doc with their questions, and then I can get those back to Garrett, and we can get things updated.
Perfect. And they say 4 weeks just to cover themselves contractually. The last reserve study we did for a district, we made changes 6 months after the fact, and they were happy to do it.
Okay. Yeah, I just want to make sure we have timelines clearly documented. As you guys know me, I have horrible memory and get pulled 20 million ways. So, just want to make sure that if something needs to happen, we have it documented of when and why it needs to happen.
Yep.
Okay, my question is back to the study that we're talking about undertaking on fees. Political division. I mean, is that something that all the metro districts would have to agree on, or just 4, or just 1 and 4? How would that play out in terms of the political subdivisions here?
So
have I stumped you?
yeah, Jennifer would definitely know the answer to that question. I think with how everything's set up right now, Sam, if the districts decided to do a fee, it would run within 4, and there would likely be agreements between the districts, since 4 is really operating as that operations and maintenance district. So I don't know if that's exactly your question.
No, it is, and I think we need to get an answer to that just so we understand the process as part of the logistics of that process. Who all is the point, and who has the ultimate approval authority, and does it require unanimity among all the districts, or is it a 4 thing? So that's kind of where I'm up in the air on, just to understand what's going to have to happen.
And Sam, I'd add to that. I think that, I guess the intent and the goal here is to make sure that, all boards are on the same page, and collaborating. And that's why we're here together and talking about this, so we can define what the scope is, what we want, and define what the options are, and define what the decisions are together. And so, politically, I'd like this to be a collaborative process, and I think that's what that we chose to do. So, if it is action that's taken by 4, we'll get there, and we'll have to understand, what the actions are legally that we need to take, and how we're going to move forward in this, whatever way we choose. But I want to make sure, I'd like to have everyone on the same page.
No, I always strive for unanimity. I just wanted to understand how it was actually, the machinations of how it was actually going to work.
Yeah. Well, let me follow up with Jennifer and get a clearer picture of what that process would look like.
Yeah, just email us, Shelby, and just tell us how it's going to all play out whenever it is we come to some decisions.
Yep, will do.
And it may be determined of what path we take. If it's going to be going to a request to do a mill levy increase, or if we do choose to go with additional sources of funds. I mean, or not. It may be no action, and we just cut services. Or we define that, whatever. So it may be dependent upon which path we take. But Jennifer can probably help us with that.
Yep. Okay. Yep. One thing I wanted to clarify too, Shelby, can you just remind me? We are currently, for the town of Erie, at our max for O&M still, correct? Like, we don't have any wiggle room on that.
For the mill levy.
Correct.
Yep, you're right.
Okay, so the only option would be a type of fee for that piece of it that would still have to be approved by the town.
Or go to the town and get the mill levy raised.
Yeah, I think the easier option would likely be a fee. I'm not saying that the mill levy increase couldn't be done. There's just additional work that would have to be done there.
Okay. And then, Brandon, just wondering from your end too, what talks have happened internally to Oakwood to looking at additional developer advances or anything along those lines to make up that defunct 90,000? Anything happening internally that we should be aware of?
No, I don't think we've had any discussions on that. I think we all understand that we set the budget where it is in an effort to figure out how to move forward. So
like I said, move forward. But I think that's when we talked about this and had the public comment on that budget hearing. I think that was one of those pieces that came up, was that Oakwood would also still look at, hey, for that 90K, if there still be needs for developer advances, and where those, what has continually kind of been pushed off and caused our costs to keep growing to look at these fees. So I think that's, even though we say, hey, yes, we need to look forward, I would still really, really love to see Shelby, Jerry, Brittany, Brandon, where that diversion happened from O&M mill levy will take care of the districts and what the service plan originally called for versus where we are now and why we're in that deficit. So even with doing that fee study, is there anyone we can engage into pulling that service plan and telling us where those deviations kind of happened throughout the years?
Maybe we ask whatever, firm we're going to ask to do a fee study, just to do an analysis of the service plan and, see what was, provided in that process. If we'd like to do that, and if not, we can. I'm sure that CLA can do some research, or Jennifer.
I agree with Jason. It would be great to know how we've blown the budget and where those things have happened, and if there's a pattern in the same line item keeps coming up over and over again, we probably need to address that.
Yep. So I think that'd be a good one to have in that scope for that fee study. Just a evaluation of the service plan in the past years and why we're now needing to look at this additional income revenue source. But yeah, I think that would be important to kind of have in there.
Okay.
I know we're over time, so I appreciate everyone's time. And Shelby, do you got more for us, my friend?
Nope, I think I was just going to kind of recap really quickly. So action items, Jerry and Brittany are going to work on putting together kind of a scope or RFP for the fee study. I'll follow up with Jennifer on just what the logistics would look like if this is something we move forward with down the road, as well as check out the service plan. And then the other thing is whether or not we want to set our next meeting while we're all together here. So we can all check calendars.
I thought we had a standing 4-week one, so I do apologize. I thought we were already on that.
It's interesting you say that. I remember that too, but the appointment I sent out wasn't recurring. So if we just want to do every 4 weeks, Thursday at 3:30, I think we can set that.
This sounds like we need to get together more quickly again to talk about once we get these things going, rather than there seems to be a sense of urgency, I guess is what I'm saying. And I don't know that getting together in 2 weeks is going to fix anything, but it might be good just to touch base.
Yeah, I guess maybe I'd ask Jerry and Brittany kind of when we think we can get the RFP together. And, that might be something that we can all work together on through email. But Jerry,
we can have a draft of the scope to the group next week.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't think it needs to be like a really, full RFP. I think it's just, defining what we're going to try to get out of this. Yep. Hopefully, a couple bullet points, here and there. Make it pretty simple.
Mm-hmm. So we can do that piece. As far as once the proposals come back, that would be does that need to be a board for approval, or is that something that would just be discretionary that they could do through email? Like, what would need to happen if we do decide to move forward with that piece?
I don't know. Maybe Jennifer can speak to that.
Yeah, Jennifer said she didn't want to participate in these, and
well, this is just an approval of a proposal, I guess, or a contract. And we've already contracted with TSC if we go that route, so we have probably a work order in place with them already. But if we choose a different firm, we probably have to get a form of contract and work order and whatnot.
Okay.
So we can check in with Jennifer on that.
Yeah.
And perhaps we ratify it at the next meeting.
Okay.
But we can check with Jennifer.
Yep.
Sounds good. All right, just want to make sure we know, even after we get data back through email, just want to make sure we next step, like to kind of think ahead. All right, well, I much appreciate everyone.
So I guess one more thing, we talked about the communication. So Jerry is going to communicate out to the community tomorrow regarding the pool opening as well. And I think that's dependent upon delivery of parts. And so just, keep us in the loop on that, Jerry.
Yep.
Brittany.
Yeah.
How's the weather looking for next weekend? Oh, sorry. How is the weather looking for next weekend? Are we looking okay?
I don't know.
Well, I mean, it sounds like no matter what, we're not next weekend, even if we wanted to be, unfortunately, for opening. I think we said, the 17th was going to be best case scenario, right, Jerry? Like that weekend of the 18th?
We will know that hopefully by tomorrow.
Okay. Let's hope. Our people are going to be
We are
Local.
doing
Oh, I know.
everything we can.
And there's no, Brendan, there's no temporary external pump that we could mount on the side of the pool and move the water, or it's got to go to the main filtration system?
No, that's not. The
No,
pump that's broken is the one that circulates the water through the heater. So we have to be able to get the water pumping through the heater so that we can heat the pool.
Okay, that makes sense. Thanks.
Okay. So are we sticking with 4 weeks from today, or did we want to try to set an earlier meeting? I think, Sam, I know you're going to be busy that first week of June. So maybe we need to look at the second week at the earliest.
Yeah, I'll be out of town till the 7th, just for me.
I mean, I'm personally a fan of the 4-week cadence, just as we're waiting for information, knowing that we can get together if something vital comes up. But I'm a fan of email communication and working on that. I feel like we all have our day jobs we still got to get done as well. But so that's my reason for 4-week and through email. But if anyone has anything else, I'm definitely amenable to more often.
No, I mean, that's fine. It's the 4-week cycle, and if we need to talk earlier, Shelby will just get in touch with us and say, we need to talk.
Yep.
Yeah, or split the difference and do 3.
Yep. Okay. Well, I just sent out a revised appointment to make that recurring. So I'm sure we'll talk in the meantime. Otherwise, I'll see you all on June 17th.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks all. Bye.
Bye.